Goo is a loser who lives in a world where anyone considered ugly can be jailed or even executed for having the audacity to breathe. One day he wakes up to a new order from the beauty queen, banning the most hideous of all from roaming the streets. Because of this, he tells his sister not to dare show her face on the streets. After Goo goes for a job interview and is finally able to land a job, but his department manager Cha is just what she looks like. Beautiful on the outside, but a Karen on the inside, who continues to remind him about his less fortunate face. Later, she forces him to follow her home and do all her dishes, cleaning, and laundry. But this thank you ends up being a kick in the face. Goo limps home to meet his sister, who has a face even a mother wouldn't love, which is why they live alone. Goo assures her that one day she'll surely be able to walk the streets without a paper bag. The next day, the queen announces that some criminals were caught trying to modify their appearance, so she sentences them to death, leaving everyone horrified. One day, Goo finds a voucher under his door, which directs him to a public bathroom to redeem it. While he's there, he uses the password and a trapdoor opens up, delivering him to a mad scientist. The mad scientist tosses Goo into a capsule just as the police raid his secret lab, so he leaves his hope for the world with Goo and escapes. When Goo comes out, she realizes she's been turned into a beautiful girl whose presence causes the officers to faint. When she reaches the street, everyone bows down in similitude for her. Her new appearance unlocks pretty privilege on a terrifying scale, and before she knows it, she's in a new outfit, holding bags for free clothes. She heads back to her office to ask for a job, so they immediately make her the new CEO and throw her in the large office. There she asks to see her old manager and tells her to grovel at her feet, hoping to humiliate her. Strangely, her plan fails, because Cha is also a cultured fool who encourages her to do even more. She informs Goo that her beauty is enough to rival the 4 knights that are second in command to the queen, so Goo makes up her mind to go after them. Meanwhile, the 4 knights meet to discuss the presence of someone just as beautiful as the queen, but they decide not to alert the queen and take care of it themselves. Later, the CNN news reporter, whose face is strategically covered, reports that another beauty repellent was caught in the women's bathroom. Instead of resisting, he quickly surrendered to his fate, which prevented him from getting sentenced to death. Instead, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. However, the prisons are currently suffering from an overabundance of inmates and are even turning to executing their prisoners just to make space. Goo turns off the TV, disgusted by the madness. Then Cha asks why she wants beauties like her to clean. Goo explains that since their company sends staff out to clean toilets, it would be better if the beauties went out to represent the company. Cha praises this idea and calls ugly people trash, which irritates Goo, who promises to make her feel like trash herself. However, this only scratches Cha's itch. Goo asks how she can get information about the prisons, so Cha takes her to a data center, but says that only the beauty queen has access to the secret archives. Goo has no problem getting in and is able to access the secret archives, where she learns about the aesthetic seismograph, which shocks her. Suddenly, the power goes out, followed by a bright light coming from the roof. When Goo goes to look, she finds Bright, one of the 4 beauty knights. Bright asks if Goo is the one responsible for sending beauties to clean toilets, but Goo in return asks her what she knows about the seismograph. When Bright hears this, she says Goo's not supposed to know about it and decides she must be taken out. She deploys her beauty drones designed by the queen herself, which have gone into mass production. Whenever there's a beauty dispute, the drones appear to assess the parties involved, and whoever is deemed more ugly is erased from the world forever. Bright, using her secret weapon, selfie lights, to bring her score up to 4.5, beating Goo, who's at 4. The drones target Goo, but with quick thinking, Cha unplugs the lights, which makes Bright's score drop, getting her erased. Goo picks up the key she left behind, and though Cha tries to talk her out of it, she decides to go to the prison. Meanwhile, the remaining 3 beauty knights discuss the loss of their least presentable member, so another one offers to do the dirty work instead. Meanwhile, at the prison facilities, the guards continue to treat the humans as trash, and even kids have been thrown in there for their lack of beauty genes. Suddenly, an alert goes off, and the guards see Goo approaching. But when they refuse to cooperate, they get erased by the beauty drones. Goo walks right into the facility, and all the guards get taken out while she waltzes into their control room. However, before she can release the prisoners, a man with flowers surrounding him appears, and he turns out to be one of the beauty knights, Me. He doesn't understand why Gu insists on causing chaos, even though she's breathtaking, so he challenges her to another beauty contest. Gu wastes no time activating her new weapon, a dress with bows, along with the light she got from Bright, earning her 5.3 stars, while Mii only earns a measly 2.5 stars. However, he assures her that men actually the real beauties in the world and uses his flower accessories to bring his score up to 4.5, which is still less than Gu's. Before Gu can gloat, she's hit with a horrible stench from the flowers, causing her to cover her nose, which brings her score down to 4. Gu thinks fast and tosses some dirt in his eyes, forcing him to close them and bring his score down to 3. Before he gets erased, he begins to beg for mercy and offers to serve her instead. At that moment, Cha arrives to see if Gu's okay, but when she sees she's about to release the prisoners, she stops her. Cha insists that the ugliest shouldn't be free to walk the streets, but Gu tells them they were born that way, and it's not their fault they were hated by God. Gu laments about the suffering and bullying they have to face just because of their facial defects, but Cha sees nothing wrong with that. The girls continue their argument, which prompts the beauty drones to stand by for pruning. Gu warns her that the very system she's trying to protect is literally about to erase her, but Cha sticks to her ugly ideals in the end and gets turned to dust. This only fuels Gu's rage, and she releases the prisoners anyway. She stands before them and delivers a speech granting them their freedom, but things don't go according to plan. A fight breaks out over meat, causing the beauty drones, the uglier ones in the fight, get taken out. Soon the entire prison is fighting, causing the drones to take out multiple of them, till a man declares he's the best-looking one out of them and declares himself king. Gu can't believe the madness she just witnessed, but Mii explains that the prisoners don't have anything better waiting for them on the outside. Gu wonders if her mission is hopeless after all, so Mii hands her his piece of a key that opens a secret room of the royal family, which may have answers she's looking for. So Gu swears that after gathering all the pieces, she'll change their world for good. Gu's company continues to expand as she becomes a bigger public figure and tries to preach the message of beauty within. However, his sister watches unimpressed, given that he's abandoned her for days with nothing more than a shitty note and mysteriously new renovation. Later, Gu soaks off in her penthouse, wondering who that mad scientist is and why he did this to her. Mii comes in and reports that he's almost done locating the other beauty knights, but asks if she's really sure about opposing the beauty queen. When Gu doesn't waver, he gives up and walks off, commenting that she's reminding him of the queen 3 years ago. That night, Gu almost gets assassinated by eyeliner, but when she dodges, one of the beauty knights steps out and introduces herself as Ying. When Gu sees her face, she scoffs at her audacity, which cues the beauty drones. Gu gets her usual 4 rating, while Ying gets an embarrassing 0.5. However, Ying opens her bag and puts on her makeup, making Gu realize that Ying intentionally waited till she got out of the bath. The drones immediately start firing at her, and she continues to dodge, hoping to hit Ying in the process, but Ying assures her that they never misfire. However, Gu uses this to her advantage and hides under the table, leaving the drones at a lower angle, which makes Ying look like a troll. She gracefully accepts her loss and gets erased, leaving behind her key. Meanwhile, the beauty queen consults with the last knight left standing, so she promises to find out who she is. Days later, Mii informs Gu that she's found the location of the last knight, so they head to a corporate building, where all the staff strangely stand aside and watch them. The receptionist tells them she knows why they're there and leads Gu to an elevator, instructing her to get off at the top floor. However, Mii is not allowed to go with her based on strict instructions from the knight. Gu says it's okay and takes the elevator alone. And when she arrives at the top floor, she finds the last knight, Ball, standing in the middle of the room. Gu offers her the chance to turn over her key peacefully, but when Ball doesn't listen, Gu starts the beauty contest. She dons her pageant dress again, but when Ball turns around, Gu is horrified to remember how ugly her sister looked. Regardless, she jumps in front of her to stop the drones from firing and asks how she could possibly be the last knight. However, Ball graffitis her face and reveals that she was simply using a projector to simulate Ming's face. With that device, she can become anyone she wants and ensures that her beauty always comes out on top. All it took was a little research to discover that Gu had renovated their building and supplied luxurious meals for Ming, and bingo, she got what she wanted. The drones finally make their pick, and just as they're about to erase Gu, two roses appear and disrupt Ball's simulator, causing her to switch between faces. The drones change their mind and blast her instead, leaving behind her part of the key. Gu now has the complete key and is ready to face the queen. They head to the castle, and there, Mi tells her how different things are from 3 years ago. Apparently 3 years ago, the queen was kind to beggars and homeless people. However, after mysteriously disappearing for a little while, she came back as the ruthless beauty queen they know today. She executed her ministers and only kept her 4 knights in place, even though they don't know what got into her. Gu asks if she ever leaves the castle, and Mi admits that she doesn't let anyone in or come out herself, and she only communicates through holograms. They head through the barriers, and Mi adds that the queen is actually a genius who made all the devices in the palace. When they arrive at the front door, Mi says that is as far as she can go because he's not pretty enough. Gu walks through easily, so he reminds her that the queen wasn't always like this and asks Gu to help her. Gu reaches the throne room and finally meets the beauty queen face to face. When the queen sees her, she's surprised that the girl who took out her 4 knights isn't even that special. Gu brings out the completed key and demands to see the secret room that contains a device that can control people's hearts and minds. The queen wonders how she's not satisfied even with all that beauty, but Gu says she plans to make the world right again and starts to walk forward. The beauty drones start to measure their beauty levels, but when they both pass 5, the machines self-destruct from confusion. However, the queen turns out to be a hologram, and when Gu asks where she really is, she says this is all part of her plan. Gu runs outside and sees a filter form outside the castle, but as it moves to the rest of the town, it starts erasing all the objectively ugly people. At that moment, the queen makes an announcement to the citizens explaining that the filter will erase anyone with less than 1 star in stage 1, and then stage 2 and 3, until only the most beautiful people are still left standing. Gu instantly rushes home knowing that his sister wouldn't even pass the filter if it was set at 0. When she gets to the new building, she uses Ball's projector to simulate Ming's face. But when she gets in, she's surprised to find the queen and asks what she's doing there. Ming reveals that she's been posing as the beauty queen for the last 3 years, and though she didn't know that her brother was the new 5-star, she has no regrets. Ming flings Gu out of the building, leaving her questioning what in the ugly duckling is going on. Just then, the mad scientist appears out of nowhere and hands him the key, along with a vial of royal blood, explaining that the madness can't be undone. He tells him that out of all the experiments he's done, Gu is the only one who didn't fit into the rules of the world, which means he's the only one with the power to change it. With this, Gu rushes back to the castle and inserts the blood into the machine before Ming gets erased. This all happens because 3 years ago, the queen stumbled on Ming releasing turtles into the lake. Ming had lamented about how her brother had kept her inside because her face was giving people eye cancer. The queen felt bad and tried to encourage her with one of her speeches, but Ming wasn't having it since she knew she'd never understand. Because of that, the queen took her into the castle and showed her some of her many inventions, including a gun that could transform people into anyone else, one to turn anyone beautiful, and the aesthetic seismograph. Through the generations, her family had used the device to control what the people worshipped. But now that it's her turn, she's not sure what to do with it. However, Ming turned out to be ugly on the inside too, and used the queen's device to turn her into the mad scientist, while she turned herself into the queen. When the queen warned her that her transformation would only last for 3 years, Ming said she would take everyone out along with her that day. She tried to eliminate the queen, but she was able to escape thanks to a hidden device. In the present, the real queen appears in front of Gu and tells her that time has stopped in the outside world while she uses the machine, but there's no stopping the device. She says the only option is to change the laws of the world so that her sister can live, but in doing so, the people who don't qualify will be filtered out. Gu calls this a dumbass idea and suggests destroying the machine altogether. The queen warns her that this would throw the world into chaos and also take Gu's life, but Gu insists that everyone should have the right to determine their own fate. With that, she recalls all the drones to target the seismograph, and they begin to destroy it, which unfreezes time and returns the queen back to normal. Unfortunately, Gu does not survive it and breaks apart with the machine, leaving Ming devastated at her loss. A year later, the victims of the filter frenzy are memorialized, while the authorities continue to search for the terrorists responsible for the incident. The queen returns to life at the palace with Mi at her side, while the citizens turn to Snapchat filters to fake their beauty and ugliness. Meanwhile, Ming sits in her room, working on her computers all day, till she hears a familiar voice behind her. If you know someone who should be filtered out by the seismograph, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.